2025 Global Technology and Innovation Conference, held in a lavish convention center in Silicon Valley, is not just a gathering of the world's greatest minds. It is an arena. Powerful politicians, tech billionaires, and pioneering scientists have come together not only to discuss the future, but to assert their dominance. The air is thick with hidden competition, polite smiles masking sharp strategies, and every statement could be either a strategic advance or a calculated attack. On the main stage, under the brilliant spotlight, stands Elon Musk, the man dubbed the uncrowned king of the tech industry. With a confidence bordering on arrogance, Musk is always the center of attention. He is here not only to share his vision of artificial intelligence, AI, and SpaceX's interstellar projects, but also to solidify his image as an unstoppable genius. But today, not everyone is willing to bow before his brilliance. Among the audience, Barron Trump, 18 years old, sits quietly in the front row. To the public, he is an enigma, the youngest son of Donald Trump, shielded from the political and media spotlight by his mother, Melania. But Barron is not merely Trump's son. Behind his composed exterior lies a sharp intellect, shaped by elite education and a family that measures success by dominance. Today, he is not here to be a mere spectator. He has been invited as a young speaker representing the new generation to share his perspective on technology and the future. But no one expected that his presence would ignite a firestorm that would shake the entire conference. After Musk delivers a compelling speech about AI's future, the audience erupts in applause. He stands on stage, scanning the crowd, a confident smile on his lips. "We are standing at the threshold of a new era," Musk declares with authority. "With XAI, I am building a future where artificial intelligence doesn't just solve humanity's problems, from curing diseases to conquering new planets, but also serves as a safeguard against the very risks we create. That is my mission, and I will not stop until it becomes reality." The audience applauds again, but not everyone is convinced. In the dimly lit front row, Barron Trump raises his hand. A conference staff member rushes to hand him a microphone, and suddenly the spotlight shifts to him. The room falls silent, curiosity filling the air. No one expects much from the Trump boy, perhaps just a casual question or a polite compliment. But as Barron stands, his gaze cold and unwavering, his voice resonates clearly, slicing through the stifling atmosphere. "Barron, Mr. Musk, I deeply respect your achievements, but I cannot help but question your approach to artificial intelligence. You speak of solving humanity's problems. But what happens when your haste creates even greater problems? I noticed you did not address the ethical concerns or the potential risks AI poses if not strictly controlled. Do you believe that the relentless pursuit of leadership at any cost could push us to the brink of irreversible disaster?" The room falls deathly silent. Some in the audience gape, while others exchange astonished glances. This is not just a question. This is an attack, meticulously crafted and aimed directly at Musk's greatest vulnerability, his overconfidence. Musk, still standing on stage, forces a tight-lipped smile, struggling to maintain composure. He tilts his head as if facing a child's naive challenge, and responds with a touch of condescension. "Musk, Barron, you know, I'm thrilled to see young people engaging with such grand issues. But let me be clear. If we waste too much time worrying about hypothetical risks, we will never progress. Innovation always comes with risks. That's the name of the game. If we don't accelerate, we will fall behind, and I have no intention of letting that happen. Do you want to live in a world where China or Russia leads AI development? Because I don't." The audience chuckles, some nod approvingly. Musk appears to have regained control, but Barron remains unfazed. He takes a step forward, his gaze locked onto Musk, his voice sharpening like a blade cutting through his opponent's smugness. "Barron, Mr. Musk, I am not talking about hypothetical risks. I am talking about real, documented dangers, even ones you yourself have acknowledged. In a 2018 interview with Axios, you stated that AI could be the greatest threat to human existence if left unchecked. So why now do you embrace the move fast and fix later approach? Is that responsibility or just arrogance? The room falls silent again, but this time not out of surprise, out of tension. Musk's smile fades, his brows furrowed. He is not accustomed to being confronted with his own words, especially not by a teenager. But Barron does not stop. His voice grows stronger, each word landing like a hammer. Barron, let's talk about Tesla's self-driving project, Mr. Musk. In 2023, the U.S. National Highway Traffic Safety Administration recorded over 800 accidents linked to Tesla's autopilot system, including 17 fatal crashes. These numbers are not imaginary, they are human lives. You once claimed Tesla's self-driving cars would be 10 times safer than humans by 2020, yet that promise remains unfulfilled. Instead, we see lawsuits, reports of system failures, and families mourning their losses. So, Mr. Musk, how do you justify prioritizing speed over safety? The audience murmurs, some shake their heads, others hastily take notes. Musk, now visibly uncomfortable, shifts on his feet, drumming his fingers on the podium. He struggles to regain his footing, his voice rising slightly, but unable to mask the unease creeping into his demeanor. Musk, listen, Barron, you're talking about numbers out of context. Those accidents, they're part of the learning process. Every crash is a lesson to improve the system. If we don't test, don't innovate, we'll never progress. And don't forget, human-driven cars cause millions of accidents every year. I'm trying to save lives on a large scale, not just a few individual cases. But Barron wasn't going to let Musk off easily. He tilted his head, his gaze sharp like a seasoned negotiator, and continued his attack, this time targeting a different aspect: ethics and social responsibility. Barron, Mr. Musk, I understand that innovation requires experimentation, but the issue here is how you conduct those experiments. Do you know that, according to a 2024 Reuters report, Tesla was accused of concealing internal reports on autopilot system failures to avoid lawsuits? That's not learning. That's a lack of transparency, and it puts human lives at risk just to protect your profits. And let's not forget, you once said, "My goal is to save humanity." But how can we trust someone who is willing to trade ethics for speed? The room now felt like a pressure cooker, the air so heavy it could be cut with a knife. Some members of the audience started clapping, not for Musk, but for Barron's sharpness. Musk, now visibly unsettled, attempted to steer the debate toward another domain, X, where he believed he could regain the upper hand. Musk, listen, Barron, I think we're getting off topic. Let's talk about something I'm actually doing to change the world, X. This platform is the future of free speech, a place where every opinion is heard, uncensored. Under my leadership, X has grown stronger than ever, despite criticism from envious detractors. This is an example of what innovation can achieve when we are fearless. But Barron didn't let Musk change the subject so easily. He smiled slightly, a cold, almost strategic smile, and responded with a level of preparation that was almost terrifying. Barron, Mr. Musk, I'm glad you brought up X because it's the perfect example to illustrate my point. You say X is the future of free speech, but let's look at reality. According to a 2024 Bloomberg report, X lost 55% of its advertising revenue in the first year after your takeover, dropping from $4 billion, $500 million to $2 billion. This happened because more than 60% of major advertisers, including Coca-Cola, Disney, and IBM, pulled out due to concerns over unregulated content and the rise of misinformation spreading accounts. Is that what you call thriving, Mr. Musk? Musk, now visibly losing his composure, started to interrupt, but Barron raised his hand, signaling the audience to remain silent, and continued with a sharp tone. Barron, and let's not forget, you claimed that X would be a place where every opinion is heard, but what happens when those opinions criticize you? According to a 2024 Stanford University study, over 30% of X users reported being blocked or having their engagement reduced after posting criticisms of you or your policies. Is that free speech, or just freedom for those who agree with you? And finally, Let's talk about your verification fee decision, a move that drove millions of users away, leading to a 300% increase in fake accounts, according to X's own data. How do you explain this innovation, Mr. Musk? The room was no longer just a conference. It was an arena, and Barron was leading the battle. The audience erupted into applause, not for Musk, but for Barron's relentless and incisive questioning. Musk, now completely out of control, tried to respond, but his voice wavered, lacking his usual confidence. Musk, You're distorting the truth, Barron. Those numbers don't tell the full story. X is building a new ecosystem, and of course there will be initial hurdles. But I won't apologize for daring to do what others are too afraid to. And you know what? You should be thanking me for what I'm doing for your future. But Barron didn't give Musk the chance to finish. He took another step forward, his gaze now not just sharp but full of challenge, like a young warrior confronting an aging king. Barron, Mr. Musk, I don't need to thank you for the risks you place on my generation. You talk about my future, but have you considered the consequences my generation will have to face because of your recklessness? According to a 2024 United Nations report, over 70% of young people worldwide are concerned that uncontrolled AI could lead to mass job losses, increased inequality, and even armed conflicts. That is not the future I want, and I believe no one in this room wants that either. So, instead of asking me to be grateful, I'm asking you to take responsibility. Real responsibility, not just grand words on a stage. The room exploded into applause, this time not out of courtesy, but in recognition of a young man who dared to stand up and speak the truth. Musk, now completely out of control, could only stand there, his face flushed with anger and embarrassment. He attempted a forced smile, but no one was paying attention to him anymore. The spotlight now seemed to shine solely on Barron, the young man who had turned a tech conference into a battle of intellect, ethics, and responsibility. Just as the audience's applause for Barron roared like thunder, it seemed as though Elon Musk had been utterly defeated. His face was flushed red, his hands clenched tightly on the podium, his eyes filled with both anger and a hint of uncertainty. The crowd, ranging from eager journalists to skeptical investors, believed this was the moment of downfall. An 18-year-old had bested the uncrowned king of the tech world. But then, in a moment that seemed like total defeat, Musk suddenly smiled. Not the forced smile from earlier, but a cold, cunning grin, like an old fox that had just found an escape route. Musk raised his hand, signaling for silence. His voice suddenly became steady, authoritative, as if he had never wavered. His eyes locked onto Barron, not with the gaze of a man cornered, but of one preparing to unleash a devastating counterstrike. Musk. Barron, you're truly impressive, I have to admit that. You have facts, you have arguments, and you know how to make the audience clap. But let me show you and everyone here something you don't yet understand because you've never actually stood in my position. You talk about responsibility, ethics, and the risks I take. But do you know what? All of that, the numbers, the accidents, the criticisms, they are not failures. They are the price of greatness. And I, more than anyone, understand that price, because I have paid it with blood, sweat, and countless sleepless nights over the past 20 years. The audience fell silent, intrigued. Musk stepped down from the podium, moving closer to Barron, his voice growing stronger, like a master orator about to deliver a decisive blow. Musk, you mentioned Tesla's accidents? Let me show you another perspective. According to the World Health Organization, over 1.3 million people die in traffic accidents globally every year, and 94% of those are caused by human error. My autopilot system, though not perfect, has reduced accident rates by 40% compared to human-driven cars, according to Tesla's 2024 internal data. The accidents you mention, they are the price to save millions of lives in the future. Are you willing to pay that price, Barron? Or do you just want to stand here and criticize without daring to take risks? The audience murmured, some nodding, others turning to Barron, waiting for his reaction. But Musk wasn't done. He continued, his voice now filled with confidence, as if he had completely regained control. Musk. And about X? You said I lost ad revenue, lost user trust. But let me give you a number you didn't mention. In 2024, X's daily active users increased by 25%, reaching 600 million, according to our internal reports. Why? Because I made X the only place in the world where real opinions are heard, not censored by corporations or politicians. You know, Barron, those advertisers you mentioned, like Coca-Cola and Disney, they didn't leave because of misinformation. They left because they feared the power of free speech, because they could no longer control it. And I did not bow to them. Would you dare to do the same, or do you just want the world to remain under the grip of hidden powers? The room erupted into applause, this time for Musk. The audience, once captivated by Barron's sharpness, was now drawn to Musk's confidence and vision. Musk. And about X? You said that I lost advertising revenue, that I lost user trust. But let me show you a number you haven't mentioned. In 2024, X increased its daily active users by 25%, reaching 600 million, according to our internal reports. Why? Because I have turned X into the only place in the world where real opinions are heard, uncensored by major corporations or politicians. Do you know, Barron, that the advertisers you mentioned, like Coca-Cola and Disney, didn't withdraw because of misinformation? They withdrew because they fear the power of free speech, because they can no longer control it. And I do not bow to them. Do you dare to do the same, or do you just want the world to remain under the control of hidden powers? The room erupted in applause, this time for Musk. The crowd, which had been captivated by Barron's sharpness, was now drawn to Musk's confidence and vision. Some journalists began taking notes, preparing for new headlines. Musk's comeback in the debate of the century. Barron, standing under the stage lights, seemed to be put in a difficult position. His eyes wavered for just a moment. Then, like a young warrior facing his greatest challenge, he smiled. Not a smile of defeat, but one of readiness for a spectacular counterattack. Barron raised the microphone, his voice still steady, but this time it carried a new strength. A strength not just built on facts, but on a deep understanding of people and society. He stepped forward, facing Musk directly, his gaze sharp like a blade, but his voice calm and terrifyingly composed, like a storm silently forming. Barron, Mr. Musk, I truly admire the way you turn failure into opportunity, and I acknowledge that you have paid a great price to reach where you are today. But let me make one thing clear. The price of greatness cannot be paid with human lives, with lost trust, or with the values we hold most dear. You said that Tesla's accidents are the price to save millions of lives in the future. But let's look at the numbers you didn't mention. According to a 2024 MIT study, 70% of Tesla users reported that they no longer trust the autopilot system after a series of publicly disclosed accidents. What does that mean, Mr. Musk? It means that even if you save millions of lives in the future, you have already lost the trust of millions in the present. And trust, Mr. Musk, is not something that can be bought with money or innovation. The audience remained silent, drawn in by Barron's every word. He continued, his voice now growing stronger, like an orator leading the crowd. Barron. And about X? You said you increased user numbers, that you defended free speech. But let me show you another perspective. According to a 2024 Pew Research Center report, 45% of X users said they feel the platform has become increasingly toxic, with a 200% rise in posts containing misinformation about health and politics since you took over. You said you didn't bow to major advertisers, but have you thought about the everyday users, the ones leaving the platform because they no longer feel safe? You speak of free speech, but free speech does not mean the freedom to harm, to spread misinformation that leads to violence or to manipulate public opinion. And let me remind you of something, Mr. Musk. You yourself once posted on X in 2023 saying that free speech does not mean the freedom to lie. So why are you now allowing X to become a place where the truth is drowned out by lies? The room fell silent again, but this time the atmosphere was heavier than ever. Some members of the audience began to applaud, not the enthusiastic claps from earlier, but thoughtful, reflective applause, as if they were witnessing a debate not just about technology, but about the future of humanity. Barron didn't stop. He continued, his voice now carrying a sharpness, like a declaration for his generation. Barron, Mr. Musk, you asked me if I dare to pay the price of greatness. Let me answer you. I do not want to pay that price if it means sacrificing ethics, sacrificing transparency, or sacrificing the values we need to build a sustainable future. You say you are building the future for me, but I tell you that I do not want a future where human lives are considered the price, where free speech is abused to cause harm, or where people like you can do whatever they want just because they hold power. And let me tell you one last thing, Mr. Musk. My generation is not just the inheritors of the future. We are the ones who will shape it. And if you are not ready to take responsibility, we will be the ones to make sure you do. The room erupted in applause once again, this time a storm of recognition, not just for Barron's sharpness, but for his vision and courage. Musk, now speechless, could only stand there, his face pale, his eyes filled with both anger and a hint of shock. He knew he had lost, not due to a lack of data, not due to a lack of vision, but because the young man standing before him represented a new force, one that he could not control. This confrontation was not just a personal battle between two individuals. It was symbolic of the larger debates in modern society. It raised questions about the responsibility of tech leaders, the balance between innovation and ethics, and the role of younger generations in shaping the future. The issues Barron brought up, from AI safety to corporate transparency and free speech on social media, are real issues affecting billions of people worldwide. For years, Musk and others like him have been seen as the saviors of humanity, but this showdown with Barron reminded everyone that no one is invincible, and that power must be held accountable by responsibility. At the same time, it highlighted the strength of the younger generation, not just as the inheritors of the future, but as those who are ready to stand up and demand change now. What do you think about this story? Comment 1 if you think it was great, or 2 if you have a different perspective. See you in the next, even more intense and exciting story. This confrontation was not just a personal battle between two individuals. It was symbolic of the larger debates in modern society. It raised questions about the responsibility of tech leaders, the balance between innovation and ethics, and the role of younger generations in shaping the future. The issues Barron brought up, from AI safety to corporate transparency and free speech on social media, are real issues affecting billions of people worldwide. For years, Musk and others like him have been seen as the saviors of humanity, but this showdown with Barron reminded everyone that no one is invincible, and that power must be held accountable by responsibility. At the same time, it highlighted the strength of the younger generation, not just as the inheritors of the future, but as those who are ready to stand up and demand change now. What do you think about this story? Comment 1 if you think it was great, or 2 if you have a different perspective. See you in the next, even more intense and exciting story.